the Necromancer, one of the most feared builds in one of Larian's previous games, Divinity Original Sin 2, dealing insane amounts of damage without even trying. Now, one would assume, like in Divinity, you're going to have the same experience playing a Necromancer in Baldur's Gate. Yeah, no, that doesn't look quite the same, does it? Of course, you could now say that the Divinity Necromancer was more of a blood mage than a Necromancer anyway, and fair point to you, yet it still feels a bit underwhelming playing a Necromancer in Baldur's Gate. Anyway, I still enjoyed playing this build with its unique playstyle. And it's not like that the Necromancer will stay weak for the entire game. It's just that the Necromancer has a very slow power increase compared to other builds. But enough talking, let's get to it so you can see for yourself. For the races you can play whatever you want. There isn't a single race that gives you an advantage that's even worth mentioning. For our background we are going to play as the Dark Urge, because who better to play a Necromancer than our little necrophilic maniac. For our cantrips we take Mage Hand and Minor Illusion for utility, and Bone Chill because it's the only Necromancer cantrip. And I want to try to focus on Necromancer spells as much as possible. For our spells we mostly going to take utility spells that increase our survivability and movement. And of course we take the Ray of Sickness for our damage spell. Which is not even that bad actually, considering it got the chance to get some very high damage rolls. For our ability points we go for the standard 16, 14, 17 and then the 10 wisdom. Just moments ago we were enjoying ourselves in our daily necrophilia activities. But now we find ourselves inside a Nautilite with a tadpole in our head. And after we swore vengeance on the traitor who put us in this situation, we just do what we do best. Touching random things and hope it solves all our problems. After we intentionally broke down the Nautilite, we wake up on an unfamiliar beach. There we pick up Shadowheart, a half-elf who clearly isn't a Shah worshipper, which gets us to level 2. At level 2 we take the Necromancer subclass, which gives us the Grim Harvest ability. This ability will heal us whenever we kill an enemy using a spell. We also are now able to learn necromancy spells from scrolls for cheaper. For our spells we don't get anything interesting for this level. Of course, Magic Missile would be the best pick here, but I don't want to pick it, otherwise I will just end up spamming Magic Missile for the entire game. So I just ended up picking Featherfall for more utility and Witchbolt to open the door that leads to Answer in Act 3. That is, if I'm even going to fight him as a Necromancer. Because somehow this doesn't sound like the best idea. But that's a problem for future Sleeping Dog. At the beach we jump up these rocks to avoid fighting the brains for now. On top we take Gale's helping hand and then make our way to the grove to beat up some goblins. There I was a bit greedy, wanting to save my spell slots for later. So Aradine ended up dying. Such a tragedy. Inside the grove we go on a quick shopping tour, buying some potions from our lovely auntie and the hunting shortbow from Damon. Furthermore, we force ourselves to save a child from a viper, because I'm a sucker for XP. Next, we head to the Blighted Village, and since we are a drow, the goblins there will cover in fear before us and let us pass, giving us enough XP to reach level 3. At level 3 we take Cloud of Daggers and Mirror Image. I know, I said I wanted to focus on necromancy spells, but I need to be able to deal some damage somehow. Until I get the good necromancy spells at least. Which unfortunately will take a long time. At the Blighted Village we also will get our first summon, everyone's favorite.
Here, Daddy!
With our first summon acquired, we now enter the hidden laboratory of its last master, where we get the Bracer of Defense for a +2 on our AC and pick up the Necromancer book. After that, we keep abusing the fact that we are a drow and tell the goblins that there are nothing but dirt beneath our feet, for a bunch of free XP. Arriving at the goblin camp, we buy the swordsy shoes and then take a quick trip to Varkin's West, where we save Councillor Floric to get the spell sparkler. Back at the goblin camp, we free Volo and put all our guts together to make the throw of our life.
You sort of fine.
We sneak past an ogre and pick this lock to climb down a very safe ladder into the Underdark. In the Underdark, we kill this Minotaur for more free XP and then make our way to the Mygnid colony. There, we buy Melv's first stuff from Blurk, which we won't be able to use just yet. Unless, of course, you use this one instead of the Spell Sparkler, which arguably would be the better choice. But smart as I am, I obviously didn't do that. We also go to our camp, finishing Volo's quest and finally buy the Bless Ring from him, now that we have the money for it. After all this traveling, we are close to get to level 4, so all that's left to do for us is to commit a bit of murder to acquire the last missing XP points.
Better stay back. The strike could be relieving.
At level 4, we take the Friend's Cantrip to help us pass our conversation checks. For our spells, we again just take some utility spells. Misty Step and Invisibility. Coming to our first feat, we are going to take, you guessed it, the Dual Leader feat. This allows us to wield 2 stat 6 at the same time. With the Dual Leader feat, we are now strong enough to farm some hyena ears to stock up our speed potions. While farming, we also make our way to acquire our main armor piece for the first act. I'm innocent, I swear. She just died in front of my eyes. Truly. Anyway, on our next long rest, we are greeted by Mizoa, who rewards us for doing her pet's dirty work. The Infernal Robe gives us the Fire Shield ability, which causes enemies to take damage whenever they hit us. It also gives us a massive defensive boost, already increasing our base AC up to 20. With our new armor, it's now finally time to start killing all the goblins. We simply group them up using Minor Illusion and then pause the game and hit them with Cloud of Daggers. This will not start the fight immediately, unless someone dies from the Cloud of Daggers right away. Then we use Invisible Shuffle for the guaranteed surprise attacks. This tactic usually ends all fights in 2 to 3 turns. I just wish Shuffle would stop killing himself once the fight is over. Back at camp, we were daydreaming about all the warm corpses we just created. And yet, we were unable to use them to satisfy our dark fantasies. But then, a tiefling from the grove stepped forward and offered her body for our cause. Naturally, we accept her offer, and once everyone went to sleep, we indulged ourselves at her corpse. Truly a terrific night. On the following night, Sceleritas Fell, our butler, finally managed to find us. It was about time.
Milady? Jubilant day! I have found your vile self at last!
And he brings us a part of our inheritance, the Deathstalker mantle. Or, how I like to call it, the most broken cloak of the entire game. Every time we kill an enemy, we become invisible for 2 turns, which essentially protects us from all attacks for 2 turns. The next day, we kill the remaining goblins inside the temple. At the prison, we also meet Halsin, the druid everyone is so desperate to find. He tells us that he will help us get rid of the parasite inside our head if we kill the leaders of the goblins. We accept his deal and make our way to Mintara, the drow leading the goblins.
She sees the entrance to the grove as the adventurers retreat inside, joining the tieflings, and then smiles serenely as blood and shadow spread like stains across your memory, erasing all that lived there. The masterful painting she depicts of the massacre awakens you hungrily.
And when they are dead, the Absolute will reward your faith. As will I.
Never mind. Her deal is way better than that of this druid. What was his name again? Whatever, we are going to raid the grove. But before we can raid the grove, we need to prepare ourselves accordingly. First, we need to kill Kara and finish our little side quest of stealing the druid's idol for some tiefling kit. After finishing this quest, we get the Ring of Protection, even further improving our defensive stats. Next, we go into the spider cave, where we kill the first wave of spiders and then sneak past the big one and pick up the dark amethyst.
I feel a breeze. I wonder what's down there.
Using the dark amethyst, we can now open and read the Necromancy book. Reading it, we have to succeed the first 2 saving throws and we get the ability to speak with the dead and the Forbidden Knowledge passive feature. Now, all that's left to do, before we can finally raid the grove, is to kill all the remaining gnolls and goblins at the surface to get to level 5.
Took a light.
At level 5, we get the Animate Dead ability, which allows us to raise an undead servant from a corpse. When raising an undead servant, you have the choice between a zombie and a skeleton with a bow. And I have to say, even though the skeleton has the higher base damage, most of the time the zombie is the way better pick. This is because of his Undead Fortitude ability. He is actually somewhat tanky. Also, when he's attacking, he will always inflict the crawling gnaw condition on an enemy for 1 turn. And when an enemy dies while this condition is still active, he will turn into a newborn zombie that will fight for you. Raiding the grove is a lot easier than trying to defend it, since you outnumber them by quite a bit. Yet, the first part of the raid on top of the wall can still be quite dangerous, at least if you're playing solo. This is because of Zephlor. He actually can kill you in 1 turn if he gets some good hits. The reason for this is simply that he is a paladin and Divine Smite is broken. He also will always start somewhat close to you, since he will run towards you in the cutscene and confront you of your betrayal. That's why you can see me here trying to use my summons to block him from attacking me. Once you kill Zephlor, the rest of the raid is basically just running forward and killing everyone.
The way is clear. Now we can cleanse this place completely. Kill everyone.
Very well.
She said everyone. After we satisfied our lust for blood, we rejoin with Mintara for our second reward. Some quality time with her. I mean, who cares about some parasite inside their head if you can have her?
And you shall have me.
Ah, yes. She also tells us how we can reach Moonrise Towers. But who cares? This was not the reason why we helped her. And don't pretend otherwise. Back in the Underdark, it's now time that we quickly finish our business there. So we recruit Glad and then take him to the Selûnite outpost. In front of the outpost we have a Minotaur corpse that we can immediately use to get a top tier summon. With the Minotaur on our side, taking out the enemies in the Underdark becomes incredibly easy due to its massive damage output. Who was that guy again? Whatever, he is dead now.
First druid, and now last druid. Thanks to me.
Now, the last thing we do before leaving this part of the Underdark is to go to the Arcane Tower, using an invisibility potion to get past the defenses and then tell Bernard to give us the ring that leads to the basement.
If you do not repeat the secret show, reveal the truth. Do what you wish to see.
There we pick up the ingredients to finish Omelium's quest and take the Staff of Arcane Blessing, which we are going to use instead of the Spell Sparkler. Once we finish Omelium's quest, we also buy the Boots of Stormy Clamor from him. At the Grimforts we strike a bargain with Buthra to get some allies in the fight against Nier. At the start of the fight we climb up this ladder to take the high ground and push this Drager up. In this position you are somewhat safe from the enemy's attacks, because they tend to focus their attacks on the enemies closest to them. Now we just stay in this position, trying to take out the low HP enemies and watch how our allies get thrown into lava. Unsurprisingly, using this tactic, Nier is the last enemy to stand. But we outnumber him 5 to 1. So what could possibly go wrong? Yeah, this genius just killed everyone, achieving nothing in the progress. Still, Nier is way too far away to pose any real threat to us, and we take him out before he can get close to us. With Nier dead, we go deeper into the forge in search for the Adamantine Forge. There we meet some magic armors, and since they are magic, it's actually pretty simple to take them out. Simply drop a Susa flower next to them. This will stun them, making them unable to take any actions. Now you can simply take them out, however you like. At level 6 we get Undead Thrall, better summons and additional undead abilities. These abilities will make our undead summons stronger as we are leveling up, and we are now able to summon 2 undead 7s at the same time instead of only 1. Also, we now have the Animate Dead spell as one of our standard spells, which opens up one of our spell slots that we can use for something else. For our spells we take Haste because Haste is always useful, and Vampiric Touch because it's the only necromancy spell. Going into the fight against Grim, we use invisibility on Shuffle and position our zombies on this platform, so they can destruct the methods. For our own pre-boss, we use a level 3 False Life for more HP and Mirror Image, which puts our AC to 30. Once the fight started, we immediately run to this spot and end our turn. This will cause Grim to walk towards us and then stop right beneath the big hammer. Now you can hit him twice with the hammer for free, before he will be able to take any actions again. After this first initiative, we simply keep teleporting ourselves beneath the hammer, baiting him to put himself beneath it. And with our high armor, there's also little risk in this strategy. Even if he would succeed in surpassing our 30 AC, we still have the shield reaction, which would put another 5 points on top. Once we took down Grim, it's now finally time to take on Auntie Adel. But before we go to her, we pay Lump 500 gold so he will fight for us, just in case if things go really bad. On entering her lair, we leave one of her guards alive so that she wastes her first turn summoning this guard. Going into the fight, we drink an Elixir of Vigilance, so we hopefully get the first move against her. We then use See Invisible so we can see her, haste for the extra action point and armor, and last but not least, Invisibility so we can get close to her. Additionally, we put our summons on this exact spot, because this is the spot where Auntie will summon her one guard that we left alive. So hopefully we can immediately kill this guard and get a free newborn zombie. Once we revealed her, we drink a health potion to bless ourselves and then use one of the 2 Blight Scrolls I bought beforehand to initiate the fight. Since this attack happened outside of combat, she will not immediately trigger her legendary ability, even though I used the spell. On the second attack, she then will trigger her legendary ability like normal. Now it's actually pretty easy to find out who the real one is. As you can see, 2 of them have both the Hark's Trickery and Wild Magic Shirt's abilities showcased, while the other one only has the Hark's Trickery displaced. Of course, in this case she also still has the revealed condition, but assuming this wouldn't be the case, this is how you can find out who's the real Hark, when she's using the Wild Magic Shirt's reaction. Even when you know who the real one is, you still should try to kill her mirrors whenever you can, assuming you can't get her to surrender. Unfortunately, I missed my offhand attack here, but this is the perfect situation for Invisible Shuffle to save the day.
Bloody clever clogs. Come, darlings. Help Auntie.
For a moment I considered to use my zombies to attack the Hark since she already was close to surrendering, but then I thought better to try to kill her guard, because they only have a 50% hit chance, and since I have the first move, I will be able to kill her next turn anyway. Shit. Luckily, her mirrors still need 1 turn until they can act, so they are not a real threat. To find out who the real Hark is, we can use the same trick as before. This time though, everyone will have both abilities displayed. But the order how they are displayed is still different. As you can see, they all have the Hark's Trickery ability displayed first, and the Wild Magic Shirt's second. Except one, who has the Wild Magic Shirt's ability displayed first. And that's the real Hark. Another way how you could find out who is the real Hark is by looking at the turn order. In case you have the first move, the real Hark should always have the move right after you. Though I don't know how consistent this strategy is when you don't have the first move. I need to test this at some point. Anyway, the Hark surrenders and we take a deal to gain more power, increasing our intelligence by 1 from the hardware. Arriving at the crash, we use the same tactic we used against the goblins. Group them up using Minor Illusion, pause the game, hit them with Cloud of Daggers, and then use Invisible Shuffle for the guaranteed surprise attacks. Inside the crash, we buy the Daredevil Gloves from the gift trader to increase our hit chance. At level 7 we get Blight, our first good necromancy spell, which has a very good potential damage output. And since this is a saving throw spell, it also can't miss. This actually goes for all the high level necromancy spells, so going forward with this build, it's actually going to be very important to get our spell save DC as high as possible. Now that we have reached level 7, it's time to go into our last fight for the first act. We show the Kithrak that we have the artifact they search, so she lets us see the Inquisitor. Before we go into the fight, we drink an Elixir of Vigilance to guarantee our first move. We then group them up using Minor Illusion and initiate the fight using a level 3 Cloud of Daggers. I then use my Ice Storm scroll for some massive AoE damage, and therefore guarantee that all the guild except the Inquisitor will at least die to the Cloud of Daggers in the next 2 turns. The Deathstalker Mantle is also now coming into play here, and it turns me invisible, protecting me from the Mindclaw Sword. On the next turn we hit the Inquisitor with Blight and Ray of Sickness. After that I use invisibility to get away from his second Mindclaw Sword. I will lose my next turn since I didn't refill my speed potion, but that's not a problem since my summons can keep fighting for me. So on the next turn I position my last zombie behind the Cloud of Daggers and turn Shovel invisible. So the Inquisitor will hopefully jump through the Cloud of Daggers trying to kill my last zombie. On the following turn I do the same thing with Shovel. I could have tried to kill him there using a speed potion, but there's no guarantee I will hit him. Also, if I'm too close to him, he might go for me instead of Shovel. So better play it safe, teleport away and then finish him off the next turn. After we defeated the Inquisitor, we get Vlaakith to bow before us, as it should be. We then enter the Astral Prison and refuse to kill our Dream Visitor.
It seems I was right to put my faith in you after all. Thank you.
Yeah, let's hope we won't live to regret this. Now that we refuse Vlaakith's wish, all the Githyanki in the crash will try to kill us, and I really don't want to fight them all. And I don't have to. We simply go to the west side of this room and turn some statues, which will then open a secret door. And the secret chamber behind this hidden door no longer counts as hostile territory, so we can simply teleport away instead of trying to fight our way out. Oh, don't mind me. Just having a quick talk with my business partner from the first episode. Alright, now it's time to go to the Shadowlands. Our first stop in the Shadowlands are the pilgrims waiting for Karnas, so that they can reach Moonrise Towers. Pity, they will never get there.
No! No!
Before we summon Karnas, we kill all of the pilgrims to make the next fight a lot easier. Once Karnas arrived, we actually won't fight him just yet, because that would just be suicide with our build. Instead, we use our Intimidate proficiency to convince him to stay on our side.
They called the weakest of your flock in your name, Majesty. Glorious.
We then follow him into the Harper ambush, where we also stay on his side, which has 2 reasons. First is that I don't want anyone to survive this encounter, so that I can immediately get the Pixie Blessing once the fighting is over. And by initially staying on Karnas' side, we get XP for every death. And second reason is my character is dumb and didn't realize the ambush. So if I would betray Karnas now, I would just die before I even get the chance to move. Anyway, with the help of the Harpers, we take down Karnas rather easily. Unfortunately, all the surviving Harpers run away once Karnas fell. Probably because I was invisible at the moment. Still, it's a shame. I would have loved to get the XP. Oh well. Now that Karnas is dead, we can free the Pixie and she rewards us with her blessing.
Protection from the shadow curse. What more could a dingus want?
With her blessing, we can now immediately travel to Moonrise Towers and go on to a quick shopping tour. Our first stop there is the Bugbear, who we are going to prove to that we are a true warrior, which gives us a 15% discount to all his items.
Want anything from my stash? You pay less than the rest.
Once this is done, we buy the Fistbreaker helm from him. This helm gives us a +1 to our spell save DC, which is the stat that we need for all our high level damage spells, because they are all spells that require our enemies to make a saving throw. And on top of that, it also gives us a +1 to our initiative. It's literally the perfect headgear for us, at least until we can acquire the Hood of the Weave in Act 3. Next, we go to the Blood Merchant Arach. She will give us the potion of Everlasting Vigor if we force Astarion to bite her. This potion will increase our strength by 2 permanently. Nothing that will affect our gameplay in a great manner, but having slightly better athletics and being able to carry a bit more stuff is always nice. And since we are playing solo anyway, there is no reason not to take this potion. Additionally, we buy the Robe of Exquisite Focus for another +1 to our spell save DC. And last but not least, we buy the Bow of Awareness from Roa Moonglow to get another +1 to our initiative. Having finished our shopping tour in Moonrise Towers, we enter the throne room where Caderic Torm is holding a trial over our bloodlusty girlfriend Mintara.
Night Warden Minthara, your crime is incompetence and your sentence is death.
Oh well, it was nice while it lasted. Caderic proceeds to be overly dramatic as the goblins can't accept their fate.
Try again.
In the end, it falls onto us to clean up his mess, ordering us around. He will regret that.
You yearn to flay him until he forgets himself. He could enjoy your cuts forever and a day.
Upstairs, we speak to Zirel. She tells us about a relic that Caderic's advisor Balthazar was sent to retrieve. But they lost contact with him, so now we should go to the Tor Mausoleum and find him. But this has to wait. We have a more important mission to take care of first. With the help of the key to Balthazar's room that we got from Zirel, we are able to enter the room of Isobel, Caderic's lost daughter. Of course unseen and very silent. Inside her room we need to kill the mimic standing at the bottom of her bed. Upon killing it we get the Spine Shatter Amulet. Having both the Spine Shatter Amulet and the Boots of Stormy Glamour, all our ranged attacks will now apply 4 turns of reparation to the target. Before we are going to leave Moonrise Towers though, we are going to rescue Mintara, because we are such a nice person. And after successfully getting her out of Moonrise Towers, it's now finally time to go to Last Light Inn. Arriving at Last Light Inn, we meet Jaheira, who doesn't seem to trust us all that much. Quite surprising, since we have such a trustworthy face. Luckily, we can convince her that we are free of the Absolute's will and are on her side. She sets us free and we just acquired a bunch of meat shields for the final battle. Now that we are considered an ally to the Harpers, we can buy the Incandescent stuff from their Quartermaster. This stuff gives us a +1 to our ranged spell attacks and the Fireball ability, which will become very useful later on. Now that we have acquired most of our gear for the second act, it's time to take out the shadow creatures surrounding Last Light Inn. While fighting the Shadow Curse plants, you need to be a bit careful, since the small ones will explode on death, and 2 explosions from them can easily kill you. But of course the same goes also for their allies, and we can use that to our advantage. When fighting the Shadow Curse Champling Mount, he would normally be the only one to react to the Minor Illusion, since all his allies are ambushing and therefore won't react to the Minor Illusion. But you can simply cancel their ambush condition by using Shriek from Falar Aloof while being invisible. Once you got everyone to cancel their ambush condition, you can use Minor Illusion to group them all up and then hit them with Fireball, causing the Shadow Curse needles to explode right next to their allies. And this pretty much already concludes the entire fight. Back at Moonrise Towers, we kill some isolated guards to create some corpses for our undead servants. And then make our way into the prison once more to free the remaining prisoners. Honestly, I find it kinda ridiculous that you need 2 bombs to kill these stupid flying eyes. Anyway, we take out all the guards at the prison, and by taking out the warden, we also get the Spellcrook's amulet. This amulet allows us to restore a used spell slot of any level once per long rest. Incredibly useful for any type of spellcaster. Now that there are no guards left to disturb us, we help the remaining prisoners to break out and bring them to Last Light Inn. Upon finishing this quest, we get to level 8 and take Knock, which we later need to open 2 doors inside the Thor Mausoleum. For our second spell, we take Conjure Minor Elemental. I know this summon doesn't necessarily fit the Necromancer team. Unfortunately though, I need this summon to safely kill some of the boss enemies in Act 2. But don't worry, this is the only elemental summon I'm going to use, and also only for the second act. The elemental I want from this spell is the Aesir. The Aesir has a decent damage output, being able to deal damage with both its action and bonus action point. But the main reason why I want to summon is because of his 20 AC, which makes him quite tanky, giving me more time to take down the enemy. For our feat, we take the ability improvement for a +2 on our intelligence. Speaking about bosses, it's now finally time to take on the 3 Torm siblings. Starting with Theobald Torm, we use a Poison Cloud to start the battle and then just run away to lure him out of the distillery. While running away from him, we use our summons to kill the 4 zombies fighting alongside him. Taking out the 4 zombies was a bit more of a hassle than I would have liked it to be, but in the end we took them all out and now it's just Theobald left. Taking out Theobald after you got him out of the distillery is very easy. Just move next to the big tree, and since Theobald is too big to get through the gap between these 2 roots, he will just sit behind this big root waiting for you to kill him.
Pity we had to kill him. He seemed more lonely than cruel.
Next we pay a visit to our doctor, using the back door to get behind him. While you are standing behind him, be careful not to step on any of these stairs or you will immediately trigger the combat. Before we start the fight, we drink an invisibility potion to get the surprise attack and an elixir of blood loss. Additionally, we throw a speed potion behind us that we are going to pick up once the fight started. We again use the Poison Cloud to start the fight. Using the Poison Cloud to start the combat gives us the advantage that all the enemies take at least 2 turns of damage from the Poison Cloud due to the surprise attack. But more importantly, using the AoE spell causes the patient to immediately die, which will trigger our blood elixir, essentially giving us a free action point for the first round. One thing I quickly would like to add here is how legendary actions work. I noticed that many believe that the legendary actions won't trigger when the enemy is surprised, because they are reactions. And yes, it's true, most legendary actions are reactions, but they are not normal reactions. And that's why they will still trigger even if you surprise the enemy. As you can see here, Marlos and his sisters are all surprised, and yet he still triggers his legendary ability when I attack him. Alright, back to the fight. With our main character, we are going to focus all of our attacks onto Marlos and ignore his sisters. Since our zombies are immune to poison damage, we can send them into the Poison Cloud and position them in front of Marlos in the hope of blocking him from leaving the Poison Cloud. The other summons will just wait in front of the Poison Cloud and kill any sisters that survive the Poison Cloud and move out of it. Which unfortunately some of them do. I actually could have easily prevented that by simply casting Poison Cloud on top of everyone again on the start of my turn. But I unfortunately didn't realize that. So here we are. But at least my other summons have something to do now. For the remaining fight, we simply move the Poison Cloud on top of Marlos whenever he walks out of it. and hit him with Ray of Sickness until he is dead. Last but not least, we have to face Gangrowth Torm. Against her, we go invisible and start the fight using only our summons. You can stay invisible with your character forever by simply entering turn-based mode once you started the combat. This way you won't lose any of your conditions since you are in turn-based mode. And since the combat also already started, it will keep going, ignoring the fact that you intentionally paused the game with your main character. We then simply use our summons to bait all the flying squads to gather around them, so we can hit them all at once with Fireball. Hitting this massive AoE attack allows us to kill all the flying squads in almost one turn, and therefore significantly reducing Gangrowth's HP. Unfortunately, we only got her down to 200 HP from killing the flying squads, because not all of them joined the fight. But that's alright. It's still low enough for us to kill her now. For the rest of the fight, we simply use our summons, mainly the newly summoned Asia, to tank her attack for us, while we stay in the corner spamming Ray of Sickness until she's dead. The only thing you have to look out for at this point are her coin bombs, so none of your summons accidentally die from one of these.
The curse now. Perhaps you'll find peace.
With all the Shadow Curse Torms dead, it's now finally time for us to head to the Torm Mausoleum. There we solve a puzzle which opens a hidden door that leads us to the Gauntlet of Shar, hidden beneath the Torm Mausoleum. Inside the gauntlet we meet Baldur, Kedavic's chief advisor and the next person on our kill list. Luckily for us, Shar has sent some of her undead justiciars to assist us. And this is also the reason why I picked Knock as one of my spells at level 8. Once the combat started, we can use Knock on the door to Baldur's chamber, which then forces him to join the fight. But we won't fight on his side, at least not really. On our second turn, we attack Balthazar to turn him hostile. This is solely so we get his XP once he dies. And he will die. Even though it might not look like it at first, with no one to destroy the Umbral Tremors, he will sooner or later be overrun by the Justiciars. And while this happens, we simply hide inside the room where we came from and basically just wait. We are still going to help Balthazar a bit by attacking the Justiciars out of our room, taking a few of them out. Unfortunately, I got a bit unlucky in the end, missing multiple attacks on a one-hit Justiciar in front of me. Because of this, I was forced to use a speed potion and a poison cloud to safely kill the remaining Justiciars. I know, it's a massive failure on my side, using resources to kill a boss. Unthinkable. After this massive fight, we are going to enter the vault inside the gauntlet. Once more, using Knock to open the door. Inside this vault is the last item we want to acquire from the second act. The Callous Glow Ring. This ring lets us deal an additional 2 radiant damage against enemies that are illuminated. With Balthazar out of the way, we explore the rest of the gauntlet. Deeper inside the gauntlet, we complete Shar's trials to acquire the 4 Umbral gems that we need to get to the deepest level of the gauntlet. Unfortunately, one of the gems is guarded by the Orchestral Yugia, so to his misfortune, we have to kill him. To be able to get close to him unnoticed, we turn invisible. Additionally, we cast haste on ourselves and drink a flying potion. After we positioned ourselves behind him, we use our summons to initiate the fight. Our main character will stay invisible until Yugia finishes his turn to avoid any risk of dying. Just don't forget to enter turn-based mode again after you initiated the fight to avoid losing any of your buffs. After Yugia finished his turn, we use our movement line to exactly find out where he is standing. Once we've done that, we use his own bombs to blow him up. Since we can just move his bombs around, we just put all of them right in front of him. And after we set everything up, our heroic Azir will sacrifice himself and blow them all up. After this explosion, Yugia has about half health left, which is just enough for us to finish him with 2 blight spells. As for the remaining fight, we mainly just use our flying potion to play a hit and run game with the mech ones. This lets us stay outside of the danger the mech ones could provide, and we can take them all out from a safe distance. Having acquired all 4 Umbral gems, we can now move down to the deepest level of the gauntlet and then enter the Shadowfell. But before we enter the Shadowfell, there are still 2 fights at the surface that I want to do before that. Starting with the easy one of these 2, we are going to introduce the Githyanki to our little friend Minor Illusion, followed up by Poison Cloud. The Poison Cloud is exceptionally effective against the Githyanki, in this case because it removes their light source which protects them from the Shadow Curse. They now take 2 instances of damage whenever their turn starts, which leads to them all dying rather quickly. Back at Last Light Inn, we are finally going to save Isobel. At least for now. For Isobel's fight, for the first time, we are going to use the skeletons as our undead servants instead of the zombies. And this is because I don't want to use them to deal damage, but instead to heal Isobel. This might sound a bit weird at first, but don't worry, it will all make sense in just a moment. Before we start the fight, we drink a potion of vigilance to guarantee our first move against markers, and a speed potion because we are going to need the extra attack if we want to save Isobel. Once the fight started, we drink an elixir of Battle Mage's power to increase our spell save DC, and then hit him with 2 level 4 Ray of Sickness spells to hopefully poison him and therefore reducing his hit chance. The reason why we didn't use the Elixir of Battle Mage's power as one of our pre-buffs is because this would have overwritten our Elixir of Vigilance, causing us to lose our guaranteed first move against markers. But now after the combat started, this elixir doesn't do anything for us anymore, so we can replace it. Before we are going to end our turn, we take some of our healing potions and put them on the ground, on a spot that won't cause our enemies to accidentally break them. And this is how I'm going to heal Isobel using only my skeletons. As I've shown you before against Yugia, you can move objects around without spending any action points. So whenever Isobel takes any damage, I can just move one of the healing potions right next to her and then just shoot it, which will cause it to break, healing the character standing closest to it. This still doesn't guarantee that we will save Isobel, since she still can easily die to the winged horrors if she gets paralyzed. But it's the best I can come up with at this point without some respec shenanigans. In the end, it works out for us, she survives and we can enter the Shadowfell. Don't forget, safety first before you take any lifts in honor mode. Inside the Shadowfell, we meet Nightsong, or rather Dame Aelin, an Asima who is the source of Kedric's immortality. And since she agreed joining our fight against him, we freed her from her shackles and led her charge towards Moonrise Towers. Before we are going to Moonrise Towers ourselves though, we need to come clear with ourselves and embrace who we are. And as you know, to be at peace with yourself, you always need to make a sacrifice. Trust me, this is the only way. We have no choice. After our necessary sacrifice, we are rewarded with our final level up for this act. At level 9 we take Cloud Kill, so we don't need to rely on scrolls anymore to use this spell, and for our second spell we take Melf's Acid Arrow. This is going to be our spell that we use to take out Merkul. It's not the best spell for such a task, but I want to stay inside the Necromancy theme, and I think Mel's Acid Arrow still fits into that theme, at least more than the other choices. Since we are now level 9, we also unlock our first level 5 spell slot, which now allows us to summon ghouls with our Animate Dead spell. There we have two choices, the Flying Ghoul and the Normal Ghoul. They are both very similar. They both deal the same amount of damage and have the chance to paralyze a target with their main claw attack. They also both have the Devour ability, which allows them to heal themselves by biting a living creature that lays on the ground. The only difference between these two is that the Normal Ghoul has a bit more HP, 5 to be exact, and he also has a higher armor class, with 17 compared to the 14 from the Flying Ghoul. So on paper it looks like the Normal Ghoul is a lot better than the Flying Ghoul. But there I disagree, since the Flying Ghoul, as it's already stated in his name, can fly, and I find that to be a lot more useful than a bit more survivability, since flying allows you to take control over the battlefield, be it by taking out low HP enemy rangers in the backline, or by simply blocking certain key enemies at any given moment. Oh, and before I forget it, our butler came back to us with another gift. This beautiful creature here. The Slayer. Am I not magnificent? I told you, sacrificing people has always proven itself to be the best course of action. On the shards against Moonrise Towers, we still have all the Harpers as our allies, since we freed the Night Song before we killed Isobel. With the Harpers, this fight is pretty straightforward and with little risk as long as you stay behind your meat shields. So pretty much all I did this entire fight was to cast Cloud Kill on the first turn and then just move it once it's my turn again. As for my summons, I sent them into the enemy backline to kill their ranged units, mainly focusing on the adepts since they can kill a lot of your meat shields very quickly, or at least get them to waste their turn using their Hunger of Hades or Guardian of the Faith spells. The other gods don't pose any real threat, since they are unwilling to walk through the poison cloud to get to you or your allies, which leads to them just skipping their turn most of the time. Going into the first fight against Catterick, we pre-buff ourselves with a flying, speed and invisibility potion. The invisibility potion might seem a bit weird at first, since you won't start outside of combat for this particular fight, even though you are invisible, but the invisibility potion will give you advantage on your first attack against Catterick, and that's why I took this potion. After this attack I won't use my second action point to attack him again, but instead to cast haste on Aelin, which is also the reason why I used the speed potion instead of the haste spell on myself, so that I could cast haste on her once the fight started. The reason I do this is because I want her to kill Catterick for me, and with the haste condition she has enough action points to kill him in one turn. And this is exactly what she is going to do, since she will always focus her attacks on Catterick if she can reach him. Once Aelin took out Catterick, the next enemy we want to take out in this fight is the Necromancer, because otherwise he will just keep summoning new Necromites every turn. And that's basically the entire fight. Once you are alone against all the Necromites, you can just use the Deathstalker mantle to turn invisible after every kill, avoiding any kind of damage, or just use the Slayer. Inside the Illithid Oubliette, there isn't that much for us to do because we won't get enough XP to get to level 10 anyway. This is because I avoided any fight that involved shadows, simply because it's an absolute pain for me to take them down with this build. Yet there are still two stops I want to do before facing Myrkul. First we free us, our little friend from the Nautiloid. He then joins us as our third special shaman. And last but not least, we get the Waking Mind for the permanent Gizari Mind Barrier condition. Before we go into the final fight, we use the Illithid Restoration and our Spellcrux Amulet to prepare all our summons without losing any spell slots. The 5 summons that we will use in the final fight are the Flying Ghouls, the Aesir, Scratch and us. I will explain each of their tasks when we get into the fight. To get all our summons into position, we group them up into 2 groups with a maximum of 3 summons per group. This is because when throwing a potion, you can hit up to 3 characters. I still recommend to have multiple potions ready to throw, because you are still not guaranteed to hit them all. Additionally, we drink an elixir of Battle Mage's power with our main character to increase our spell save DC. And with that, we are ready to walk towards Cataract and put everyone into position. Scratch will sit in front of Alan and free her the moment the fight starts. The Flying Ghouls will stay here and also wait until the fight started so they can fly up to the Mind Flayer. It's important that you let them fly up to the Mind Flayer after the fight started, because by using their flying ability the invisibility will break. And last but not least, the rest of our characters will position themselves on the main platform so that they can attack Cataract. Except us. He is going to be the one who triggers the combat, using his Synaptic Discharge ability on the Mind Flayer, which also will trigger a surprise round since everyone was invisible. After all our summons did their job, we enter turn-based mode again so our main character can drink her speed potion before attacking Cataract. I then use one of the 2 Disintegrate scrolls I bought before from Quartermaster Tali to remove most of Cataract's HP with one attack. Now it's important that we kill Cataract in this turn so he transforms into Merkel. This is so important because Aelin only focuses her attacks on Cataract once he became the Apostle, and we don't want her to waste her smite attacks on anything else but Merkel. And to achieve that, we use our last summon that still didn't do anything to potentially deal a bit of extra damage against Cataract. I don't want to hear it. 36% on advantage, this was clearly just pure skill that I hit this one. Anyway, now that Cataract is on 15 HP, I feel comfortable enough that I can kill him in one hit without using my last Disintegrate scroll. But before I take my shot at him, I drink an elixir of bloodlust so that I might gain an additional action point once I've killed him. Like last time, I used this last action point to cast haste on Aelin so she can deal more damage. For the next turn we just focus all our firepower against Merkel, except for our 2 ghouls whose first priority is to take out the Mind Flayer, which they unfortunately fail at, but that's alright, because the Mind Flayer will always prefer to use his domination ability over the Mind Blast, and since he definitely will die on our next turn, he will have 0 impact on this fight, even if he succeeds. Now that the Mind Flayer is dead, we can also start sending our ghouls down to fight Merkel. Just be sure to put enough space between everyone on the main platform so Merkel won't be able to hit everyone at once with his cleave attack. With our main character, we now leave the high ground so we can take out these 4 Necromancers with Fireball, to at least stop Merkel from healing for one more turn. After that we keep hitting him with Melf's Acid Arrow and also use our last Disintegrate scroll on him. On our next turn we again just keep spamming Melf's Acid Arrow against him. But one small and not unimportant side note, we keep one of our level 3 spell slots, so we have Counterspell at the ready, just in case if Merkel picks up Finger of Death. Luckily for us he doesn't, which also means he didn't heal, so on our next and last turn we can take back our high ground and end this once and for all. Before we get into the final act for this one, I would like to mention that the latest patch wasn't the best thing to happen to my save file. While I did manage to get the game running, it was rather unstable. Oh well, that's what I get for taking way too long to finish a run. Unfortunately, I also encountered some bugs due to this. Luckily, most of them happened in unimportant parts, though there was a somewhat major part where it did affect me, but we will get there when the time comes. Alright, let's bring death to this world. But before we can go to Baldur's Gate, we need to take care of Orpheus' honor guard. And as you all know, there's only one way how to properly deal with them. With Orpheus' honor guard dead, we subdue him once more and leave him in the care of our Dream Guardian, who by the way is a mind flayer. Who could have guessed? Anyway, with these unpleasantries out of the way, we can now proceed to Baldur's Gate. Our first stop there is Faerûn, a Sharan trader who sells us the Hellrider longbow, which gives us a +3 on our initiative. Next, we make our way to the circus, where we are going to acquire our last 2 items for this area. But before we come to that, we need to kill a clown live on stage, as you do.
A bloodthirsty rush of fury engulfs you. You want to butcher the crowd, women and children alike, and soak in their innards. It is glorious.
To make this fight a little easier, we take out these 2 beforehand, by jamming the cage shot for the little kitten and tossing some meat for the big boy. Now we eagerly watch how a circus visitor gets murdered on stage, before we start with our own killing. You didn't saw that, and this was definitely the only time this ever happened. After some successful placed poison clouds, we managed to take out all the doppelgangers without bigger problems. At level 10 we get the Inure to Undeath ability, which prevents us from having our hit point maximum reduced and gives us resistance to necrotic damage. For our extra cantrip we choose Poison Spray, simply because it's the most fitting cantrip for a Necromancer. For our spells we don't unlock anything new that would be interesting for us, so I just chose Remove Curse, which we actually need later on to remove some curses. And for the second spell I went with Greater Invisibility, because this spell is simply broken and who knows, it might become handy later on. To acquire the item we want, we need to kill Lucretius, the owner of this circus. To do that, we use Mana Illusion to lure her to a place where we can kill her without any interference. Once you killed her, she will drop 2 items. The first item being the Spellmight Claws, which can increase the damage of your spells that require an attack roll by 1d8, if you choose to add a -5 penalty to the attack roll. To get this item you actually don't need to kill her, you can either get this item through stealing it or by simply doing her quest. But this doesn't apply to the second item we get from killing her, which is also the main reason why we killed her. The Hollow Stuff is an item that you can steal from her or acquire through any other means. Though, to be fair, Command Drop Weapon should also work in theory, but I didn't have the spell and also never tried it, so I can't say for sure. Anyway, the reason I wanted this stuff so badly is because it has the heightened Necromancy ability. This ability gives creatures disadvantage on saving throws against our Necromancy spells, making them even deadlier. Especially combined with our high spell save DC, we are looking at 90% plus success chances for our Necromancy spells, while the enemies also have disadvantage on their saving throws, making it basically impossible for normal enemies to succeed a saving throw against us. And this also goes for most boss enemies, as you will later see. Now all that's left to do for us is to acquire the 5000 gold to buy the stone statue to get the Perma Blessing. which we used to have until I bought a bow for almost 5,000 gold. Yeah, I know that the prices from traders got more expensive in honor mode, but now that I think about it, 5,000 gold for an uncommon bow seems a bit over the top, doesn't it? Anyway, all we have to do is to turn into a loot goblin for a bit and finish some quests. With this it should be no trouble at all to get the 5,000 gold.
For she who fights with monsters should look to it that she herself becomes a monster.
Child of Bhaal. How fun! I always wondered how it would feel to kill your own siblings. And now it's my right to do it. This is...
greater than you could have dreamed. Today is a wonderful day for murder.
We finish our quests in this cave, which puts our gold just over the needed 5,000. So it's time to head to the circus and... yeah, it's gone. I forgot that since I didn't accept Lucretius' quest and even killed her, there is no reason for the circus to stay in Baldur's Gate. Oh well, we didn't really need the permablast anyway, so it's fine. Now before we go and see Gortash, we make one last quick trip to the beach. There we will help the guild kill some thugs from the Stone Lord, so we can later just walk past the guards in front of their hideout. Upon meeting Gortash, he tells us about our past and that we were the mastermind behind the Absolute until Owen absorbed our rightful place as Bhaal Chosen. He then sweet talks, we decide on our own accords to renew our alliance with him and let him go through with his coronation.
Enver Gortash, the council appoints you Archduke of Baldur's Gate.
Our first stop in the lower city is Ramazith's tower. There we meet the sorry excuse of a wizard named Lororican, who is just another nutcase seeking immortality through Dame Aelin. I'm going to enjoy cutting his life short with our good friend. But before we get to that, we are going to do a little heist in this tower. We jump down one floor. There you will find 5 pillars. 3 of them will activate security measures trying to kill you, while the other 2 are teleporters. First we are looking for the teleporter that teleports us below. There we find 2 items protected by 2 globes of invulnerability. To get these items you need to reveal the 2 invisible levers in front of them and pass a 20 Arcana check on each of them. The first item we get from here is the Marcos Kier staff. This staff gives us a +1 on both our spell save DC and spell attack rolls. Additionally, it gives us the Arcane Battery ability, allowing us to cast a spell of any level without spending a spell slot once per long rest. And last but not least, we also get the Questcast Favor spell. This spell imbues you with an element of your choice, giving you resistance to that element and lets you deal additional damage of chosen element equal to your proficiency bonus. On top of that, you also get 2 spells of the chosen element to cast once per short rest. In our case, 90% of the time we are going to use the poison version of the extra poison damage and for the free poison cloud that comes with it. The second item we get is the Robe of the Weave, which also gives us a +1 to our spell save DC and spell attack rolls. Additionally, it increases our armor class by 2 and lets us heal 1 to 6 HP whenever we succeed a saving throw against a spell. Next we go to the pillar that teleports us into the vault. Inside the vault you will immediately find the Red Knight's final stratagem right behind you. Upon reading this book you will get the Scroll of Artistry of War, which essentially is just a higher level version of Magic Missile that you can cast once per short rest. This is a unique scroll that you can only acquire by reading this book, which is also why you want to learn the spell from this scroll, as this is the only way how you can acquire the spell. Just as a small side note, at the next room on the left side is a small hidden room with a genie lamp. If you interact with the lamp you will swap places with the genie inside, trapping you, inside the lamp. But you can simply bypass this by moving the lamp with a summon, which then will swap your summon with a genie. The genie will then reward you for your genius with some gold.
Summon? Curse this wretched head, why did I not think of that? Such ingenuity should be rewarded. Here, good tidings upon you.
And this is how it looks inside the lamp. There is a bunch of loot lying around, but since we are summoned, we can't take any of it. Though I think there was also a way how you can escape the lamp if you happen to trap yourself in it, but I can't remember how. Now we get to the main part of the vault. Usually you will need to solve a puzzle to open the 2 vault doors, but I'm way too lazy for that. So once more, knock will solve all my problems. Inside the Vault of Castles is the Annals of Castles book, and upon reading it we get a scroll of Dethrone, which is another unique scroll. It's not as unique as the Art of War scroll though, since some traders also have the chance to sell you the scroll from time to time. But it's still unique in a way, since the only way how you can acquire the spell is by learning it from a scroll. So this is exactly what we are going to do here again. And last but not least, we go into the Vault of Elminster. There we find the whatever codex. Upon reading this book you will get cursed, which you then can simply remove with the remove curse spell. Once we remove the curse we get the whatever vigor ability. This ability will give us a 20 HP temporary buff after every long rest. Now we can finish reading the Necromancer of Tay. You still need to pass one last wisdom check of 20 though, so be prepared for that. Upon completing the Necromancer of Tay, you get the Danse Macabre spell. This spell lets you summon up to 5 simple AI controlled ghouls. They are not very strong, but they have one very interesting hidden ability. And this is that they explode on death, dealing necrotic damage. And this is something that will become very handy later on, as you will see. Before we start doing any fighting in the lower city though, there are still 2 items that I want to buy. First one being the Cloak of the Weave from Helsing. This cloak also has the Arcane Enchantment ability, giving us a +1 to our spell save DC and spell attack rolls. And last but not least, we knock on the door of our Necromancer friend Mystic Carrion, who will sell us the Hood of the Weave, which also has the Arcane Enchantment ability, but this time we get a +2 on our spell save DC and attack rolls instead of the usual +1. He also gives us a quest to hunt down one of his runaway undead servants. Pretty pathetic for a Necromancer if you asked me. Losing control of your own servants couldn't happen to me. I only ever lose control of myself, which is way more professional. And with that, it's finally time for a new ruler for Ramazith's tower. Who, you ask? Well, me of course. For the fight against Lorcan, it's very important that you start the fight while you are invisible. This is because when the fight starts, you and all your summons will spawn very close together. And if you remember what the AI controlled ghouls do when they die, yeah, that would result into a very unpleasant death. When fighting Lorcan, you never want to attack him directly with your main character, as long as his myrmidons are still alive. This is because he gets the Elemental Retort ability from them. This ability essentially lets him do a magic missile reaction on anyone that attacked him, dealing 3d8 elemental damage with each missile for each myrmidon that is still alive. To put it short, this ability can easily one-shot you, and on top of that, he can use this an infinite amount of times per turn, since this reaction doesn't use his reaction point. So you are basically forced to kill all his myrmidons before you start dealing with him. Unless you stun him. I mean, our ghouls have the paralyze ability on their claw attacks, so why not try and... I mean, they won't be able to do much against the myrmidons anyway, so... Okay, when can I expect the exposed video? Anyway, we use our skill RNG to kill Lorcan with our new Art of War spell. Or we don't. Oh well. Because I didn't want to waste another attack on Lorcan to finally kill him, I decided to finish him off using the AoE Necromancy spell Circle of Death. By using a scroll, since this is a tier 6 Necromancy spell that I don't have yet. Now that Lorcan is dead, we want to focus our attacks on the second most dangerous enemy in this fight, the Water Myrmidon. The Water Myrmidon is so dangerous because he has a ranged multi-attack, which also can easily one-shot you if he crits. So we hit it with our Dethrone spell, removing a good chunk of its hit points. For the remaining fight, we just hide behind our summons and Aelan, while they take them out one by one, mainly through the help of our explosive friends.
You are broken by its beauty!
Next we are going to kill Mystic Carrion. To do that, we first need to find Trumbo. You can find Trumbo inside this house, hiding inside the closet. Usually to kill Mystic Carrion you need to follow an entire questline to find and then destroy his heart. But you also can just skip everything, kill Trumbo and loot it from its corpse. And be sure to stay at a safe distance when destroying his heart. It's quite explosive. Fighting against Mystic Carrion is a bit of a pain, since he summons a bunch of mummies once the fight starts. Mummies are one of the strongest undead summons, and to my misfortune they also are immune to both poison and necrotic damage, which is our main damage source. The same also goes for Mystic Carrion, so the only way for us to damage him is using the force damage from our Art of the War spell and Disintegrate Scrolls, which, to be fair, are two of the strongest spells in this game. Unfortunately, this is still not enough to kill him in one turn, and since he also has immunity to all physical damage types, my summons can't finish him. Which is annoying to say the least, as Mystic Carrion has a reaction that allows him to turn any undead creature that makes an attack. And similar to Lorcan's special reaction, he also can use this an infinite amount of times. Good that I always have my backup bombs for situations like this. But now I'm forced to retreat, because I have no way of killing all these mummies. So I do just that and then put the asset arrow into my spell selection once more, so that I have a damage source that I can use against them. While fighting the mummies I just used everyone's favorite hit and run tactic, until they were all dead. Upon defeating Mystic Carrion we get the most important item for our build, the Staff of Cherished Necromancy. Like the Hollow Staff, this staff also has the heightened Necromancy ability, but on top of that it also has another ability. The Life Essence Harvest ability allows you to cast any Necromancy spell for free, and you even can do a max level up cast of it after you killed an enemy. You can use this ability once every turn, and if you don't use it, the absorbed Life Essence will last until your next long rest. Sounds broken? And it is. Combined with the Arcane Battery ability from the Marcus Kier staff, you can now cast 3 level 6 spells in one turn. And even after that you can cast 1 level 6 Necromancy spell every turn, assuming you can get a kill to trigger the ability. At level 11 we unlock our level 6 spell slot and therefore also our level 6 spells. The first spell we want to pick here is Create Undead. This spell now also allows us to summon mummies, the same ones you saw in the fight against Mystic Carrion. The other two spells we want are Disintegrate and Circle of Death, both spells that we already used in some of our fights via scrolls. The Circle of Death being a very interesting spell in our case. First of all because it's a Necromancy spell, which means that we can spam the spell by using our Life Essence Harvest ability. And secondly, because it's an AoE spell that covers a very large area and damages every creature within, which allows us to do some very fun interactions with our exploding ghouls. Now it's time to make our way to the guild's hideout and pay Nine Fingers a visit. Through her, we find out more about the Stone Lord and her assassination plan against him at the counting house. So naturally we go there. Assassinations are always fun, no chance I'm going to miss that. Once we are at the counting house, be sure to use C invisibility and the Elixir of Vigilance before you enter the main vault, so that you can see Bhaal's assassins at all times and get the first move against them. The fight itself is very straightforward, since most of our spells are saving throw spells. Sanctuary is useless against us, which allows us to easily take them out one by one. Unfortunately, the Stone Lord fled the scene and we have to track him down in the sewers. Killing all the Bhaalists, including War, isn't a problem anymore, now that we have all our endgame spells. We just need to be a bit careful we don't accidentally kill Minsk with our AoE attacks.
This wretch has stood against your father before. You tremble to end him. Every part of your rancorous body yearns for it.
Oh, and we will. We definitely will. But not now. Not here. A hero like him deserves a more thrilling finale. Now that we know about the plan of the Zentian to overthrow the guild, we head there to help out Nine Fingers. Well, not like that she needs us. She unironically could almost solo all of the Zentiums. And with her guards, the Zentiums don't stand a chance. But you know, attendance is also important. This way we at least can pretend like we did something. After we killed all the Zentiums, we can loot the flask from them holding the Spectator, which I could have sworn I already took in Act 1. But apparently not. Oh well, now we have it. Having finished that quest, it's finally time to go boss hunting. Starting with Cazador, we first have to take care of his guards. Yeah, don't worry, I remembered. Not happening again. Taking out all of Cazador's guards gives us enough XP to reach our final level. At level 12, the only interesting thing for us is the third feat, since we already have all the spells we want and need. For our last and final feat, we take Alert. Usually, you will very rarely see me take this feat, because I prefer taking feats that increase my damage output. But in this instance, we already maxed out our damage output, which makes Alert the most useful pick. With this feat, we are now basically guaranteed to go first in every single fight, which indirectly also increases our survivability. Now we come to the part I already mentioned in the intro. The fight against Cazador was completely messed up, as Cazador unfortunately was bugged. First of all, he didn't even have his legendary action, which already makes this fight kinda boring. But that's not all, he also was immune to all types of physical damage, even though he only is supposed to be resistant to them. As you can see here, even the visuals are bugged out. It says that he only has resistance, but shows the symbol for immunity. And that's also how the game will treat this, as I wasn't able to deal any physical damage to him. Anyway, let's just skip this shit show and proceed to the best part of the questline. With the Vampire Lord gone, it's time to pay a visit to our stalker Raphael. Let's see how he likes it if someone enters your home uninvited. Inside Raphael's house, we are immediately greeted by a woman who's crazy. Why is everyone crazy here? Seriously, am I the only normal one in this world? Oh well. We take the normal way into a stranger's bedroom over the balcony, where we have a civilized conversation with Raphael's personal incubus, who tells us how to get Raphael's mightiest, the Orphic Hammer. Upon taking the Orphic Hammer, we trigger Raphael's security measures, which we bravely fought off. Before we start the fight against Raphael, we equip the Amulet of Greater Health. This amulet will help us to tank his attacks and to remain our concentration spells. Now, preparing for the fight, we summon our explosive ghouls very close together and then immediately ungroup them, so they will stay there. We then use the Queskar's Favor spell to gain fire protection lasting throughout the entire fight, followed up by an Elixir of Battle Mage's power to increase our spell save DC, and last but not least we use invisibility potions to turn our ghouls and also ourselves invisible after we casted haste on ourselves. Once all the enemies spawned, after we roasted Raphael,
You contemptuous creature!
we use Mana Illusion to gather everyone around our ghouls. Once we achieve that, we pause the game and drink an Elixir of Bloodlust. This won't override the effect from the Elixir of Battle Mage's power, as the buff from this elixir is also turn-based. All we lose is the automatic refill of the turn-based duration. To start the fight, we use a Disintegrate spell on Yugia. This is because he is the only enemy who won't get surprised, and therefore I would prefer to kill him immediately in the first round. With the start of the fight, we drink a flying potion to increase our mobility. This might be not so important now, but it will be later on. Now we use a Circle of Death scroll to deal damage to everyone, including our ghouls, which will cause them to explode, dealing additional necrotic damage to everyone around them. Through our kill on Corolla, we triggered our Blood Elixir and our Life Essence ability, which now allows us to cast another Circle of Death for free. Well, that's not good. Let's hope he doesn't do anything too drastic. Alright, that's okay. We don't really care about the poison anyway, since it doesn't affect our saving throw spells. On our second turn, we use our second and last Circle of Death scroll to finally kill Yugia and the remaining Cambions, which again will trigger both our Bloodlust Elixir and Life Essence ability. Now I intentionally chose not to counterspell Raphael's Rebuke, because I'm dealing radiant damage through the Callous Glow Ring. And this allows him to cast Punish Divinity on me every time after he healed himself. And this is very dangerous for me, as this reaction can potentially stun me. Infernal Stun to be exact, which is a stun that lasts for 4 turns. So if he hits you with this, you're just dead. No chance you can survive 4 turns alone. So I want to save all my counter spells for this reaction. Alright, back to the fight. There is still one Cambion that survived. But this is not really a problem, as I can just use another Circle of Death to deal damage to both him and Raphael. With everyone dead but Raphael, the Elixir of Bloodlust doesn't have any use for me anymore. So I replace it with an Elixir of Battle Mage's power to increase my spell save DC by 3 once more. Now we are beguiled, but that doesn't matter, since we are mostly going to use saving throw spells against Raphael anyway, and these spells don't count as directly targeting someone. You saw that? Counterspell didn't work. Yet another issue I had in this game. That counterspell was just not working properly from time to time. Which is very dangerous, as this can easily kill me in this particular fight. Well, let's just hope this won't happen. For our next action point in this round, we are actually not going to attack Raphael, but instead summon everyone's favorite spectator. And this is also why it's so important for us to have a very high mobility, so the spectator won't focus his attacks on us. Now that we aren't beguiled anymore, we can use our Art of War spell on Raphael, which unfortunately ended in us becoming beguiled again. But that's okay. After all, Raphael was so kind to summon an Eternal Debtor to fuel our Life Essence ability. This Life Essence allows us to cast a max level up cast of Blight on him at the next turn, which he unfortunately saved against, but we still got a good damage roll out of it. On the next turn we just keep hitting him with our Blight spells. Also, I'm drinking a speed potion here, even though I don't need to, because of potential healing issues. Raphael deals a lot of damage and I'm full life now, so I can drink a speed potion without any issues. And I would like to always heal myself when I take damage to avoid having low HP at any point. Once again, Raphael is kind enough to summon an Eternal Debtor next to us to fuel our Life Essence ability. There, you saw? This time counterspell worked. Even though there was a massive lag between, but it still worked. Weird stuff. Now it's time to finally use our Arcane Battery ability to cast Disintegrate on Raphael. It's only a 56% chance, but I thought I won't be able to kill Raphael without a reset if I don't take this risk. So I did, and luckily it worked out for me this time. For my next attack I decided to hit Raphael with Bone Chill to prevent him from healing. This way we can hit him with our last two remaining Blight spells and then hopefully finish him off with the Dethrone spells. But this also means that he will beguile us again. So we have to wait 2 turns before we can attack him with Dethrone. Because even though Dethrone is a saving throw spell that can't miss, attacking someone with it still counts as directly targeting the enemy for some reason. The problem with this is that Raphael now has 2 turns where he can heal up again and we can't damage him without risking to become beguiled again. But that's not entirely true. As you know, I always have my backup bombs prepared for any situation. But we are still not in the best situation right now, as we need to refill our speed potion this turn. But we also preferably need to heal this turn to avoid getting to low HP. But that's exactly why I still carry the Darth Meat from the first act around. Because as Dark Urge I can heal myself with this meat without using an action or bonus action point. So now we can heal ourselves and refill our speed potion. And with only 80 hit points left, it should be no trouble at all to finish Raphael with our 2 Dethrone spells, even if he succeeds both saving throws. Unless of course we have such a massive low roll. Never worried. Clearly it was obvious he fails the second saving throw.
No more devils, no more debts. With its master gone, the house is nothing more now than an empty carcass.
Now before we continue, I need to go get an item that I should have gotten a long time ago. The Amulet of the Devout gives us the high spellcasting ability, which increases our spell save DC by 2. Upon looting the amulet from the chest, you will get Cursed, which you then can simply remove with Remove Curse. However, this will summon a hostile diva that you need to kill. You could also just long rest to remove this curse, but if you do that, you have to fight 2 divas the next morning. Alright, with that, it's finally time to pay our dear sister a visit. But first, we need to take a bath. After all, we need to look presentable at our family reunion. In front of Bhaal's temple awaits yet another trial for us. And you better believe I totally did this trial the intended way. Inside Bhaal's temple, we meet our dear sister Owen, playing with her food again. In the end, we even had to push her to finish the job. Never have I seen someone more unworthy of Bhaal's blessing. At least she created a beautiful corpse. I'm gonna preserve her well. Anyway, it's time to get rid of that child and reclaim what is rightfully ours.
The changeling stands no chance, fiendish one. Eviscerate her.
And he's right. The 1v1 against Owen as Dark Urge is the easiest boss fight in the game. Simply impossible to lose. That wasn't part of the plan. Luckily we are a cheating Necromancer who brings her summons to a 1v1. All is fair, as long as I win.
Child of slaughter, I come to give you your inheritance.
Good. It was about time. The gift we get from Bhaal for becoming his chosen is the spell Power Word Kill. This spell lets you kill an enemy immediately if he has less than 100 hit points. However, you can only use this spell once per campaign.
Go, child of Bhaal. Claim the crown of Karsus. Control the Absolute. And command a horde fit to butcher this world in my name.
Now, I was just about to leave my temple, but what do we have here? Rebellious slaves? That was a big mistake. No one denies my commands.
A simple command. Your tadpole provides the means, your bloodline the message. To end these petty mortals who plague your father.
Oh, no more threats? I admit, I was hoping for...
What did you make Minsk do?
Now that's an ending befitting a hero of his stature. A truly heroic end. Now before we go meet Gortash, there is still one fight left for me to do. Which I kinda forgot about if I'm being honest. And that is the fight against Viconia. Mainly due to the fact that the Mirror of Loss barely does anything for us. You are not really gonna feel the difference between 20 and 22 intelligence with this build. Anyway, our strategy will be very similar to the strategy we used against Raphael. It's important that you summon your explosive ghouls on top of the stairs, because if you try to summon anything beneath the stairs, the shards will immediately turn hostile and attack you. Then we turn invisible and try to get as many of them as we can together around them. And then blow them all up.
You and I need to speak.
Yes, indeed we need to speak. Why are you still alive? Can we change that? Ah, much better. With Viconia dead, this fight is essentially already over. All we have to do is to send our summons in front to tank most of the damage for us and then take them all out using our AoE spells while they are locked in place. Before you want to go to the Mirror of Loss, you should go into the Armory. There you need to pass a perception check to be able to get into Shadowheart's hideout. Inside the hideout you will find a note from Shadowheart. Reading this note will reveal the purpose of the Mirror of Loss to you.
A mirror that steals memories. Very Sharon.
This way you only have to pass the prayer check to get access to the mirror. I guess we are not getting a memory today. Oh well, we didn't need it anyway, so whatever. Back at Worm's Rock, we meet up with Gortash, who congratulates us on our successful family reunion. He reveals the location of the Elder Brain to us and suggests we go there immediately to dominate the brain once more. A rather unsuccessful mission, to say the least. Well, at least this will save me the trouble of killing him. Anyway, the Emperor saves us from the Netherbrain and explains to us that the Netherbrain is too strong and only an Illithid is able to surpass its mental defenses. So, naturally, we let him assimilate Orpheus so that he opens the path for us to dominate the brain. To get to the brain, I just use invisibility to walk, or rather fly, past everyone, as I'm just too lazy to deal with this. Before we climb up and face the Netherbrain, we drink an elixir of Battle Mage's power and renew the invisibility on ourselves and the Emperor. I'm using invisibility here because I simply don't think I would be able to fight my way through all the enemies on top of the Netherbrain. Not because of the dragon, but because of the Illithid Arcanists. They all have counterspell and high level magic missiles that can easily shred me to nothing. And even with all my summons, this would still be a very risky fight to take. So I just take the easy way out, like a true hero. Before we start to dominate the brain, we drink a flying potion and an elixir of universal resistance to protect ourselves from the Netherbrain's attacks. Casting Caster's Compulsion while being invisible will cause it to immediately finish the channeling process on the turn of the Emperor. When fighting the Netherbrain, we need to be a bit careful with our damage selection, since the Netherbrain has the Aegis of the Absolute ability, which essentially is its legendary ability. The Aegis of the Absolute ability allows the Netherbrain to make itself immune to all damage types it took in the round of combat until the start of its next turn. So this means you only want to use one type of damage for every turn, so you never find yourself in a position where you can't damage the Netherbrain. Of course, you can use more damage types per turn if you have a broad variety of damage types at your disposal. But in our case, we only have 3 main damage types, so we need to be a bit careful. The good thing is we only need to deal 350 damage to the Netherbrain, since we still haven't used our special Power Word Kill spell. And I mean, we have some very powerful spells, so dealing 350 damage should be easy, right? Oh well, all we have to do is to make one additional attack before we can end this. What's the worst that could happen? I don't know what to say. Guess my RNG sheets don't work anymore. Anyway, thanks for watching. I already started my recordings for the Jack of all Trades one, so hopefully for once you don't have to wait another month for the next video. I also plan to do a build guide video for the Necromancer build, which I would like to post next week, so there will be at least 2 more videos for this month. Hopefully I can do even more than that, but I don't want to make any promises that I won't be able to keep. That's all. See you soon.
In Bhaal's name.